Non, mais c'est quand même elle. C'est juste le produit qui me gêne un peu la gorge. Mais...
Raj, please turn on your camera if possible. There you are.
Am I on?
We lost Chef. Let me get him back here.
Can you hear us?
We can.
Hey, Fred.
Hi, Raj.
Danielle, you're oh, there you go. There you are. Alrighty. Well, welcome everyone to Cru Classé at Home Volume 8. My name is Adam Halpern, and my family owns a fine wine importing company called Halpern Enterprises based in Canada. This idea, this Cru Classé platform, is something my team came up with because it's quite easy to see how tech can transcend borders quite easily. We're trying to create something that's ungoogleable. We're trying to create things that are off script, informal, and hopefully it's something that you guys can learn here by joining us today. And I'm sure there's many things I'll be learning today as well. First and foremost, from my family, from our company, from everyone here joining us today, we hope you're healthy and you're keeping safe. I know we're all itching to grab a glass of wine, see our friends and our family, but I'm sure it'll happen soon enough. So please be patient and please stay safe. Today, we have an exciting combination of the vineyards of Artémis Domaines of France and California, as well as Chef Danielle Boulud in New York. Our webinar today is going to be organized like a menu. Wines to pair with each wine, domain, different ideas that Chef has come up with alongside Raj. I'll start with a dear friend, Chef Danielle Boulud. I guess we might have lost his video. Where'd he go here? Hold on. Oh, there he goes. Can you hear us, Chef? Oh, a little bit of a technical difficulty here. Apologize, give me 1 minute. I can't hear you, Chef. Okay, well, Chef, I'm going to quickly introduce you and then I'll help you with your technical difficulties here. But first and foremost, our dear friend, Chef Danielle Boulud, a longtime friend of the family. And of course, we're extremely lucky and grateful to have him joining us today. For those of you that do not know, Danielle and Artémis Domaines are key proponents in our hospital fundraising efforts here in Canada. Through our annual hospital charity event called Grand Cru, we have Danielle and Artémis Domaines have been participating and supporting for over 15 years. And in doing so, we have raised over $35 million for University Health Network. We appreciate both you and your team's support throughout the years. Alongside Chef Danielle, we have the former head sommelier of the Danielle Boulud collection of restaurants, Raj Vaidya. Raj, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Raj will be assisting Chef Danielle and walking through our pairings with the wines that we will be introducing. And last, but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce another dear friend, Frédéric Engerer, CEO of Artémis Domaines and president of Chateau Latour for the last 25 years. Frédéric, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam.
So Frédéric, I'm going to pass this off to you while I fix Danielle's mic issues.
Thank you. Well, here we're at Latour. We thought it might be a bad weather today, but actually we wonder if we're not going to get a sunburn by the end of this session. Thanks a lot, Adam. Big thanks to all the Halpern family, Todd, Colin, you, Adam, your team, Sheila, Chris, to put together this webinar. It's a great idea. We have quite a bit to cover, so I'll try to make it short. I think we're very lucky to have Chef Danielle with us today and Raj. Raj is as well known in the wine community than a chef in the gastronomic scene, I think. They both an incredible experience on organizing wine dinners, and I'm sure they're going to come up with very interesting ideas of pairing our wines and their food. On a different note, we are very all very aware that it's a horrible time for the hospitality industry in general and restaurants in particular. And we thought, we had this idea with you, Adam, that it was essential to invite Chef Daniel, who is a leading and very respected voice among restaurateurs. And we wanted, I think, to pay tribute to all his efforts to support the industry. Here he's back. As many of you know, he has created City Meals on Wheels many years ago, and he's currently helping to feed, I think, every day 1,700 nurses in New York. But I'm sure he will mention all these more in details later on.
Allô? Oui, je suis là.
Chef, is that your fire alarm?
No, c'est bon. No, but I have problem with Wi-Fi, so I went directly
In the kitchen.
online. I mean, and no Wi-Fi. I don't know, because I've not been in this apartment for a month and a half, and I don't know if there was a short circuit or something. How are you, everybody?
Welcome, Chef.
Thank you. Let me just adjust that. Sorry for being so delayed, and thank you, Adam, and thank you, Frédéric, and thank you, every one of you who are making this wonderful wine, and also to everyone who is watching us today. I've already received a lot of texts from friends who say, hey, I'm going to catch it. I'm going to look for you. So they're all looking for us. Go ahead.
Well, Danielle, thank you again for joining.
Do you hear well? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, everyone's good. Thank God. So I'm going to ask Frédéric just to expand a little bit. Could you tell us a bit about Artémis Domaines and what the different estates are you've been running and what they have in common?
All right. So Artémis Domaines is the wine estate holding of a Pinot family. We have actually 8 estates in total, 5 of which are going to be introduced today. We're going to take a little bit of time on each of them to introduce some hard facts and, of course, answer all your questions. Each of our winemakers will be with us, at least if technology is on our side. They're all located at the estate. So ladies first, we'll have Hélène Génin, who is right here with me at Latour. Jay will be with us from Chateau Grillet. Then another Hélène Mango will be with us from Calistoga, California, and she's at Eisele Vineyard this morning. And then we're going to go to the men-only estate, the 2 Burgundians estate. Burgundy, it's a bit old-fashioned, but still, there's only guys there. And so there's Michel Mallard at Eugenie and Alessandro Noli at Clos de Tart. Voilà. I think they are ready to also to talk about the estate. I think they have selected one wine that they really like, and I believe that Daniel and Raj have a little idea of a dish to go along with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hi, Raj.
Hey, Chef.
Good to have you.
The common denominator with all our estates, it really is easy. It's passion for great wines, starting from the Pinot family and all going down to all our team. We really believe it's a privilege to work on these exceptional places, exceptional terroir in each of our wine regions. But beyond that, common point is that all our winemaker and their team are absolutely dedicated to produce the best possible wine. We also have a desire, I think it's really important, and maybe we share that with Chef Daniel, desire to permanently experiment, search, learn, and improve our knowledge and our understanding of a place. And all this background with an extreme respect for the environment and sustainable practices, as all our vineyards are farmed organically with all of them biodynamic practices. But I think this passion you will feel it when each of them will will talk and in their comments, and we'll try to leave as much time as possible for questions.
And Chef, of course, given the current circumstances around the world, hospitality is is really struggling. I'd love to hear what you're doing, what charities that you're involved in, because I know we have a little surprise in a second. So I'd love to hear how you guys are coping.
Well, with my colleague Raj, we have been apart now for almost a month and a half, and the weekend of March 13, we say goodbye to each other, and we haven't seen each other since. And it's the case for 750 people in New York who had to be, who had to stop working. And so since then, I created Hand in Hand by Daniel Boulud. So it's a charity to support our staff. First and foremost, I worry about my staff and many of them who need help during this crisis. So we raised money on Hand in Hand, and I've distributed already for almost 200 individuals, some small grants, but those small grants are helping them on top of their either unemployment or support they're getting. So that's very important. And we have done quite well. A lot of generosity coming from friends, from customers, from suppliers, from colleagues and partners. And I think that was fantastic. And I just want to thank everyone who has participated. City Meal on Wheel, of course, I've been the co-president for 12 years. I've been working with City Meal for 25 years. And City Meal basically serve 18 to 20,000 meals every day to the elderly population of New York. Old people who are still in their home. And interestingly enough, there is very little case of sickness within the elderly who are receiving the meal at home versus maybe the one who were in houses and in retirement house. And City Meal, I'm with my partner. I just started I'm working on a new business for the end of the year at 1 Vanderbilt, a new tower coming midtown on 42nd and 1 Vanderbilt, right against Grand Central Station. And the partner with me there is Mark Holiday from SL Green. And he reached out to me and said, Danielle, I want to make sure if you want to cook meal, I want to make sure I can help you. And I want to give those meals. And I also want all my tenants around town, he has many buildings, to participate with you in this effort. So he has seed $1 million to start up the program. I reopened 2 kitchens downtown, and Monday we are reopening Danielle Prep Kitchen downstairs, the catering kitchen. And we start to produce meal for World Central Kitchen, which is the effort of Rosé Andres, who has this commendable, incredible organization where they are serving hundreds of thousands of meals. And I think, a contribution by everyone is so important, and I want to do my share for that. And we can also bring some meals to NYU Hospital, Presbyterian, New York Presbyterian Hospital, who actually is also a friend and a big supporter of me and New York City and the hospital. And he asked me to cook meal for the doctors and the nurse. So every night we're going to bring for a different floor meals for the next few weeks. And then we'll continue with City Meal as well, giving meals. And but what's interesting is then all this is happening because of Food First and the initiative we took. So I am very proud that we are making, we are bringing support to the one the most in need right now. And later we're going to talk about food. And in one of the food I am using, one of the food Raj and I wanted to use actually will be also supporting one of the charity.
Well, Danielle, what you're doing is incredible. And, I
don't have time to cook, so I have to do something.
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, you've been an unbelievable supporter of our hospital system here in Ontario, and we understand that, you know, all hospital systems help each other. So we're grateful for that. And because of that, we have a raffle that we are going to be starting. It will go live right after this. Artémis Domaines have been incredibly supportive of this and have donated 4 3-liter bottles, which you can find. We will share the link on, of course, Halpern Wine social media. I'm sure Danielle will be sharing it as well. And if you cannot find the link or don't have Instagram, you're able to email info@halpernwine.com, and we'll be more than happy to get you that link. So we hope we can raise you a lot of money, Danielle, help you, your team, and hopefully those in need.
And it's more than 4 3-liters, right? Fred, the Chateau Latour is a 5-liter, correct?
No, it's
the 2 Jeroboams Burgundy size, which means actually double magnum in Burgundy, in Bordeaux language, and 1 double magnum of Eisele and 1 Jeroboam of Chateau Latour.
well,
So it's extra liters.
Yeah, the 5-liter.
So I will obviously be showing that link soon. We'll make sure everyone gets it. We hope we can raise a lot of money. But let's get into the thick of things. So Frédéric, I'm going to hand this off to you. I believe we have our first guest. I'm going to pull them in. I'm going to put up a map and take it from here.
All right. So we're going to travel to Vosne Romanée to start with. Fabulous estate we had the chance to acquire mid 2006. Previously the Angel domain with a little less than 6 hectares there, Grand Échezeaux, Clos Vougeot, Échezeaux, some beautiful parcel of Vosne Romanée les Brûlés, and you will see Michel will tell you about the Clos de Tart is actually just in front of that clos. Also some Vosne Romanée village, and then later on in 2012 we had the chance to acquire very small parcels in Puligny and Chassagne, and Michel has been with us since the very beginning, and he has done an incredible job. The quality has been increasing regularly, and he will kick off with he will show 2 wines today. One of the whites that we are producing in very small quantity, Bâtard Montrachet, and he will come back for one of our red wines, the Clos de Tart. So Michel, it's all yours.
Good morning. So my name is Michel Mallard, and I'm running the domain with 2 colleagues, which is Mathieu Moron, who has joined us in 2011 after passing the training to prepare a BTS degree. And after the move of Jay to Chateau Grillet, we have hired Gabriel Gardet. So it's 3 people. The domain is 4.5 hectares. We have the chance since 2012 to get some whites in Chassagne, les Perclos. We had some Meursault Premier Cru, les Port-Useau, and 2 Grands Crus, Bâtard Montrachet and Montrachet. For the reds, based in Vosne Romanée, we have 2 labels of village. One which is a blend, Vosne Romanée village, and we have a single vineyard which is called Le Clos de Tart, which is just behind me. And you can see the white wall just behind me. That's just above La Tâche. After we have a Premier Cru brûlé and 3 Grands Crus, Échezeaux, Grand Échezeaux, and Clos Vougeot. We also hired some seasonal person for the season to work with us. And actually, with the 2020 vintage, it seems to be the earliest in terms of precocity. We had lots of rains in autumn and winter, and spring appears to be very warm and dry. We had 3 degrees more in terms of temperature, and we had only 5 millimeters of water since the 5th of March. And hopefully, if you're just looking at the weather in Vosne Romanée, we might get some rains this weekend. Actually, in the vineyards, we are cleaning the vines, which means that we are cutting the second shoots on the cane, and we are cleaning the base of the vines. And this morning, we have sprayed in the whites regarding odium. In the cellar, we have finished battling Premier Cru Brûlé and Grand Échezeau, and we have done also the Meurtre Premier Cru Poruzo and Bâtard Montrachet. And we have racked 2 weeks ago Clos Vougeot, Échezeau, and the last cuvée of whites Montrachet. To start the tasting, I choose a white, which is the Bâtard Montrachet 2014. It's a very confidential cuvée because all the whites in terms of surface are representing 0.4 hectares in 4 appellations. This cuvée, Bâtard Montrachet, is to give you numbers to show you the confidentiality of this cuvée. We call it in Burgundy one ouvré. It's a little bit more than 400 square meters, which means 5 rows, 11 to 13 cases of fruit. It means half a barrel in terms of wines and a production total of 140 bottles. This cuvée Bâtard Montrachet, and it's the same for Montrachet because it's the same size. It's a very challenging because in the vineyard, everything is done by hand, even spraying. And in the cellar, everything is done by gravity, except for filtration. But everything which is separating the lees, racking, bottling, which will be done by gravity. Whites, we have also the characteristic to vinify them with no sulfur. This cuvée Bâtard Montrachet, I just poured 5 minutes ago, it shows young and fresh.
It's 1% of a production, Michel, by the way. So slow down.
Right?
Lucky him.
We all like to taste.
I know that it's a chance for me to get this.
I'm drinking coffee in
The
New
nose
York.
is very expressive with notes of stone, white fruit. This side of verveine. And the palate is very long and powerful.
Well, Michel, thank you. We're gonna pass this along to Danielle and Raj, and then we're gonna bring you back on in a few minutes for the red, and I'm sure there's gonna be some questions for you. So stand by, and I'm gonna pass this off to Raj and Danielle. Thank you.
Well, I'll let Raj speak first because I think I want him to express the choice of things we had about matching the Bâtard 14 from Domaine D'Eugenie. Right. Go ahead, Raj.
Primarily, both Danielle and I are desperate to taste the Bâtard 14 from Eugenie, but hopefully we'll be lucky enough someday. Michel, slow down over there. I spoke with Fred about it because it's one of the few occasions where it's a wine I really have no experience tasting because I've never had the Bâtard. It's a new production for these estates, and so I said to Chef Danielle, we want to go with something that has richness enough to balance the concentration that you get from a Grand Cru, but being that it's 14 vintage, which is a nice vintage in terms of acidity and tension and energy, and as Frédéric described it, it has a taut character. It's quite firm. And still useful. So Chef Danielle and I said, something cold would be nice for the springtime, and something with some good salinity and a little bit of richness. So we talked a little bit about salmon. Chef, what did you have in mind?
Well, I've lived in Denmark, and I've learned to make very delicate smoked salmon. You barely feel the smoke, but the fact that the fish is cured and very lightly smoked, it's very delicate. And of course, when I eat smoked salmon, I love caviar with it, of course. And Raj was totally in agreement as well that smoked salmon and caviar would be a good combination for certainly the minerality of the wine and the stone aspect, maybe. Caviar has nothing to do with stone, but they may meet somewhere in your palate.
And, caviar brings the richness, but also the saltiness, and that stoniness with the saltiness of the caviar is really good together.
Good, excellent. and of course it's me cooking Sunday brunch at home, and because I also sell that salmon online, and every purchase of the salmon, 20% goes to Hand in Hand, our charity, and it is done actually by the company Solex Catsmo, which is this my coffee cup here, and Solex. Solex Fine Food is the distributor of the smoked salmon for anyone who wish to have either the loin, which is the center cut of the salmon, beautiful and delicate, and otherwise some flavored salmon. But let's talk about wine and salmon. I think to that, it was mostly a scrambled eggs finished with some butter, because butter always love white burgundy, and a pinch of chive, and really barely a little bit of zest of lemon. I like to put with smoked fish, I like to put a little bit of zest of lemon in my eggs with the chive. And so that's all. And then some creme fraiche a little bit over as well, because white, I mean, a bâtard will love creme fraiche too. So
yeah, we need something to enrich the dish, because the wine is pretty serious, despite we wanted to do something cold. But also noteworthy is because the production is so tiny, there was no new oak used in it, but it is aged in a small oak barrel. So that hint of smoke, but not too much from the salmon, I think is a nice pairing for this reason.
And of course, toasted buttered brioche with it. And that's it. That's a sample brunch at home.
Well, that's great. And I think, Frédéric, where are we going to move to next? I know I would love to eat this now and stay here, but we have a lot to visit. So where are we going next?
I think we're going to drive a bit in the south and go to maybe to the little city of Vérin, close to in front of a Rhone river, and if Jay can join us. So this is also an amazing estate. It's very tiny, 3.5 hectare estate that we acquired in 2011. And Jay joined recently. Jay is originally South Korean. She came to France. Wow, how many years, Jay? Many years ago.
In 2009.
2009, and then she started to work with us at Domaine D'Eugenie, precisely in Burgundy, with Michel. And then she took over the responsibility of Chateau Grillet just a year and a half ago. And she will tell you a lot about this all the terraces of Chateau Grillet that you may be able to see behind her. 77 of them, and she will not talk about the 17 vintage and whatever you want to tell us about Chateau Grillet, Jay. It's all yours.
Yeah. Hi everyone, and yeah, like he said, I'm from South Korea. Now I'm in Chateau Grillet. How lucky I am. Now we are working with four people with us. So Fabien, which is vineyard manager, and Anthony and Gaëtan and me to farm the magnifique garden behind me. So I'm so really happy to be here, historical and in a previous prestigious place. So I'm so happy. Sometimes I have a lot of pressure. But yeah, it's really, really great. I want to talk a little bit about 2019 vintage, because it's my really very first vintage. I can say only one word. I can say really well balanced. It's a hot vintage, like 2017, 2018 vintage. But it's surprisingly, we have a good level of acidity. So for the Viognier, it's really important to have a good balance. So I'm really looking forward to how will be after bottling. So I'm so excited for 2019 vintage. So today I selected 2017 Chateau Grillet. I'm not sure the chef you tasted it already. We just released 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So I choose this vintage because it's really powerful and then energetic. I think we need some power and then energy at the situation at the moment is, you know, it's really difficult right now. So I choose a 2017 vintage. It's the vintage is a quite hot vintage, but when you I just served 10 minutes ago. You can, I'm not sure you can see it, but really golden yellow with green hue. And when you
it's a small
smell,
glass. It's a small glass. You drank already a lot of it, huh?
yes, it is. To prepare.
You cannot have much bigger glasses, I tell you.
Really,
Yeah.
cheers.
Cheers to you.
Really intense. Oh, great. 2016. Okay. It's a cooler vintage than 2017, and it's really intense aroma. You know, it's not the only one aroma. It's really complex aroma, like yellow fruit and the floral, and then little spice as well. And then, but when you taste, it's quite. It's really intense and then powerful and then long finish, but with some astringency, fine astringency, keep some sensation of the freshness, which we needed for the Viognier. So you might be detect some level of alcohol, but it will be really nice with good food. Maybe Chef Daniel will be tell us which food he prefer for us.
Well, I wish I was drinking the Grillet 17 with you. I am from Lyon, and I was born and raised in Lyon. And I think from my home to the vineyard, it might be about 5 minutes for a bird to fly.
Oh.
Not even. So I'm very close, and I love your region. I love the southern part of Lyon, and to me, when I think of the Côte Rôtie Blanc, the Chateau Grillet in particular, which is unique, I'm thinking of something with a little bit of richness, with a little bit of earthiness to it, and elegance also. Raj, would you speak beyond that?
For sure. I thought we should do a dish that has enough richness and to balance not only the fat of the Viognier grape, which has an inherent richness and is kind of lower in acidity than Chardonnay, for example, with the white Burgundy we just had, but also something that speaks to the earthiness of Grillet. For me, Grillet, unlike, for example, Condrieu, the obvious comparison, it has those floral elements. It has that stone fruit, but it's very mineral and very, very earthy, and really brilliant in that regard. And that's where a lot of the energy comes from. And so I think a dish like the sole that you do with the sauce made with hard-boiled eggs, and we often serve it with different brassicas, Romanesco, cauliflower, things like that. That earthiness from the cauliflower is perfect with this.
Yes,
but certainly rich enough.
Absolutely. This is Sole Polonaise, who is a classic, sort of more of a classic French application of the sole with the cauliflower mousseline. There's a little bit of caper, but there's also Marcona almond. And we do a little gremolata of citrus, but very delicate gremolata of fine citrus, a little bit of black pepper to it, but barely. And I think there's a picture of the sole, maybe.
Yeah, if you go over to Adam's,
voila. I'm sorry.
He has it up on his account. Yeah, and that almond,
Absolutely.
especially that slight bitterness from the almond, I think goes really nicely. Jay, you mentioned the astringency that it's not quite an acid profile, but it has a tension, and I think that almond
Yeah.
is really good with it.
But also at the same time, I don't know if you will agree with me, but I had another dish I had in mind, and maybe Adam has it, or do you have it, Adam, or not?
I don't have it, unfortunately.
But never mind. That was about using also a delicate mushroom who's going to come out in spring very soon called ovuli, ovoli, and it was the Ludemare with ovoli. But never mind, we'll pass on. I love the soul polonaise with the Grillet 17.
This is one of the richest vintage we've made at Grillet since the beginning. I think it's 17.
It is, yeah.
And it's amazing. I know we don't have a lot of time, but it's amazing how Chateau Grillet changes, how it can be this richness and sweetness in his initial years, and the wine loses slowly this fatness and become more and more into the herbs, the minerality, the tisane, the tea leaves, and it's becoming fresher and fresher over the years, and its aging capacity is just amazing. So we have great hopes on the 17. Yeah, I know, Adam, we're getting late. Sorry.
Well, Jay, thank you. We're going to come back, I'm sure, with questions soon. But now, Frédéric, who do we have next? Jay, thank you.
I think Michel is going to speak about the Clos de Tart 2016 now.
Absolutely. Let me just get Michel in here.
I hope he has his hat. He hasn't lost it. No.
There is not enough wind to take it out. So it could have been easy for me to choose a Grand Cru red, because we have the chance to have Échauzot, Grand Échauzot, or Clos Vougeot, but my laptop and the camera is just showing this nice block, which is just behind me, which is the Clos de Tart, just below La Tâche. And I choose this wine in 16, which is a particular vintage because it's the vintage of the frost in Burgundy. And this block is very particular because it's a clos, and you have to know that it was not a block which was originally from the Angel family. We just got it when we moved here at 14 Rue de la Goyotte. So it's a clos, and you've got the building on my left. So it's protecting the vineyard from the north wind, and it was the only block in 16 which was safe. So we produce at least 30 to 35 hectoliters per hectare. All the other appellation, we might have lost 50 to 80%. This vineyard, half hectare, is done by horse. All the works of the soil is done by horse, and there is only the tractor who's coming for treatments, spraying. This Vendôme Clos de Tart 16, it's also the first vintage where we turn everything with no sulfur addition during the vinification, which means that we didn't add any sulfur when we bring the fruit in the vats. We include 60% old cluster in this wine, and just for my glass. And I really loved the 16 vintage, even if it's a rarity, because the production of 16 in Burgundy is so small that it's very rare to find some. But for this village, this single vineyard, I think it shows lots of energy, and it's very intense in terms of aromatic. You've got this floral character, very intense of violet. You've got this spice and mint. And for me, in 16, if I have to characterize this vintage, it will be grace and elegance. This is, for me, a lovely village level.
And,
with good neighbors. The neighborhood of La Tâche, it's a simple village, but it's in a nice neighborhood.
My hand is La Tâche.
Your hat.
My hat.
Danielle and Raj, what do you think? What are we eating with this?
Well, you know, I wrote a lot of cookbook, 9 cookbooks, and this one is the Café Boulud cookbook. and I have the Daniel cookbook here. And I felt that I should dig in the past, because wine, it's all about, the past is, of course, the present is in what you're going to be making for the future. But I think wine is about the past. So there's a dish I created when I opened Restaurant Daniel 27 years ago this year, sorry. And that was a tuna wrapped in pancetta. Oh, you have the ovoli is the wrong place there, but never mind. You can see the ovoli mushroom in the middle. But I have a tuna.
That was the mushroom chef was talking about with the Grillet, the last wine. But
with the Grillet before. I wanted to play with that. But I have the tuna with which is wrapped in a pancetta, but of course not smoked pancetta, but a lard salé légèrement and séché et enroulé around the tuna with a little bit of black pepper. And then by the time I roast the pancetta around the loin of tuna, the tuna is perfectly cooked and the pancetta is perfectly crisp and melted. And the fat of the pork really nourished the dish well. And of course, some spring chanterelle with that, and a little bit of rams. In New York, we have rams coming. I mean, in my house in the country, there's rams everywhere, where there's this wonderful young garlic sprouts of spring, but very delicate and get almost sweet and earthy and tangy and lightly garlicky with that. And I thought that'd be a good dish. And of course, the sauce has a little bit of meat in the sauce from the pork jus we make for that. So I think that was going to be, to me, it was a fish dish with a meaty sort of support to it. And
it's barely a fish dish. It's almost like meat of the sea. Chef, I probably never told you this, but I had the pancetta wrapped tuna when I first went to Café Boulud in 2003. Celebrating post-college, and I drank red Burgundy with it. It wasn't as good as the one we're talking about now, but
it's a dish I think was timeless. And we have a little potato puree with the rams. With the ram, we make a potato puree. So if you want the recipe, I think I'm out of print with that, but you can find it on eBay, I guess, or on Amazon or something. The Café Boulud cookbook, and you will have the pancetta wrapped tuna.
And it's really the kind of dish which gets out of the way of the wine in a sense, because this wine has so much nuance, but also being 16, it's got a lot of concentration, and it's an intense wine.
And that dish can support that.
Totally. It provides support, but it doesn't need to be the star of the show. I think the wine will get to really shine, especially in its youth.
Do you agree, Frédéric? Michel?
Yes, totally.
Chef, your experience with handling Burgundy dinners, you are at the top of your game, and we're not going to even try. Just these are young vintages on purpose. Of course, we could have older things, but we stuck to younger. And I think Michel really particularly loves the 16 vintage in general, because it was extremely challenging. Actually, he could have picked all the 16s, the Clos de Tart, the Eisele. He has a soft spot for this vintage.
It's tremendous. It's a tremendous vintage. It's the first time I tasted these in barrel with Michel, and that wine is spectacular.
Yes, I think we gain also in terms of purity and elegance with this no sulfur addition.
And with the stems too, I think. Yeah.
And that will be coming at the end of the year on the market, or when?
It's already on the market, because
it's already, huh? I didn't get a chance, because Raj tasted in Burgundy, but I didn't know if he had it already in New York.
No, they sold out immediately. Too little wine.
Well, I hope we got some. Yeah, I'll look for it. Sorry.
Thank you, Michel.
Michel, thank you. We're going to bring you back on at the end for some questions.
Great to see you with your hat and Clos de Tart behind. We are going to drive 3-4 kilometers north now, and going to Clos de Tart. So Clos de Tart is really a landmark vineyard in Burgundy. There's a lot to say. It's actually a vineyard that belonged to the Abbaye de Tart, that has been farmed by only women from 1140 to the French Revolution. So it has just an incredible history. It's a block of 7.5 hectares. And Alessandro is now running the estate. Alessandro started at Chateau Latour in 2005, a few years ago. Then he moved to Domaine D'Eugenie. He worked with us until 2011. Then he took over Chateau Grillet. So he made actually even 2017 that Jay tasted and showed and described for us a little earlier. And now is running this beautiful, amazing Ferrari in the middle of Burgundy, which is Clos de Tart. So Alessandro, I'm going to hand it over to you, and please don't hesitate to tell us a bit of this background of Clos de Tart.
Of course. Good morning, everyone. Good evening also to the other one. Well, I'd like to start by thanking all of you for organizing this event, which allows us, after at least 1 month of lockdown, to share once more our passion for wine, and that's very important. And a few words of Clos de Tart is one, as you know, one of the 5 prestigious Grand Cru monopoles in the Côte de Nuit area. And I have the privilege, along with 4 other people, who are Jean-Louis, Arthur, Vincent in the vineyards and in the winery, and Claire in the office, to be a part of the team that makes this wine possible. Clos de Tart, of course, is not only a prestigious domain, it's an historic domain, as perfectly you explained, Mr. Engerer. The Bernardine nuns were the women religious of the Tart Abbey, first planted it in 1941, so almost 9 centuries ago. And throughout its long history, it has only changed hands 4 times. The last and present owner, Artémis Domaines, bought it in 2018, and major renovations have been undertaken since the beginning of last year, and will hopefully be completed by next year. We have already finished the cellars for the bottles and the barrels, and above all, the new winery that we could use for the first time during the last vintage of the 2019. Nowadays, we have a new battery of 15 wooden tanks that have replaced the previous 8 steel tanks. And this has allowed us to separate the various sectors that I'm looking at this moment of our vineyard in a more precise manner. That's very important. A few words about the millésime 2019, it's important. It's a quite warm vintage, but with a very nice freshness and a good alcohol acidity balance. The malolactic fermentation ended at the beginning of the year, and the assemblage should be done by next July before returning the wine back in the barrels to finish the process of aging. For today's tasting, I've chosen the 2017 millésime.
Alessandro, you see that there's the map of Clos de Tart is right behind Adam. So if you want to, there's a map there, and I don't know how close everyone can see it, but if you want to say a word on the a quick word on the different.
Because as you can see, there are different sectors. Well, until now you had, I would say, 6 main sectors. Depending on the soil and depending on the altitude of this big rectangle. So we decided to split each plot to split it in 2 different parts, depending on the kind of soil, depending also on the quality of the vegetable material, depending on the pruning. So depending on various criteria, we understood that we could divided it in 12 or 13 different sectors. that's the reason why we had to have a new winery with 15 tanks instead of 9, just to separate, because each sector has his own, I would say, personality, his own face, and that's the strength of the Clos de Tart, because all these different faces, when you mix them, you have the complexity that it's quite rare in other situation, in other place. And you can perfectly see that in the new map in front of you. Coming back to the tasting of the 17, I choose this millésime because I think that it's perfectly express the elegance and the finesse that you would like to find in a Pinot Noir. Just a couple of words on the 17. After a very cold winter, we had a quite warm spring and a sunny summer. And the harvest started beginning of September. So it's a quite early millésime, but not that warm as you could have, for example, thinking about the 2018. And another thing, it has been vinified 60% whole bunch. So here I have the bottle. And so you can see a very deep ruby red color. I don't know if you can see it. And it has a lot of freshness and complex aromatic palette with fruity notes that, like red fruit tending towards blackberry, black fruit with a little aeration. And floral notes also like rose and violet. And in the mouth, you discover a very elegant structure with silky, really silky tannins. So it's you have a really, I would say, a feminine profile of the wine. That's the reason why I like it very much. So now I give the floor to Chef Daniel to comment this wine.
I mean, what an admirable estate and a jewel in Burgundy, I will say. And congratulations, Frédéric, for having been able to save this property there.
And Chairman Mr. Pinot, yeah.
Of course, but you know, I think you are the driving force behind Artémis selection, and that's you know, I wanted to think of a duck, a roasted duck. So the picture maybe don't do justice to the way I will prepare it. If I was in Burgundy, I will roast that duck whole, of course. This is the part of our tasting menu where we have a roasted duck with rhubarb, but the rhubarb is also with a little bit of cherry, fresh cherry inside, and some dark fruits as well. So it has a delicate balance of acidity and fruitiness, and you don't have the astringents of the rhubarb, but you have kind of the elegance and the delicate flavor of the rhubarb. And also we use turnips, where, you know, when turnips, you braise them tender and almost plain with a little bit of butter and a pinch of sugar and salt and pepper, then you get that very delicate, elegant vegetable also with it. And with the roasted duck and on the bottom, there is of course a duck sauce, but there is also the rhubarb puree mixed with the dark berries and a little bit of Szechuan pepper, a pinch of Szechuan pepper, will give a barely any numbness to the duck. And I thought that would be very elegant with that. Raj,
yeah,
you are the expert.
The floral elements in the wine, especially the vintage like 17, which is so open and generous and really has an aromatic complexity that is unusual for a wine this young and a vintage this young, really across the whole region. I think it pairs really well with the rhubarb. And the rhubarb, again, you know, rhubarb can be either too astringent, tannic, or acid. And in the case of this preparation, the way you cook it, it has more of those sweet aromatic notes.
You have to follow my recipes.
I learned to cook from that book, apparently. That's the only food I know.
And there's a lot of fun stuff inside as well. But
for sure. Well,
thank
we
you
could
very-
also do this. I think the wine would be great with a roasted duck in the fall with slightly more earthy flavors as well. So
Of
you and
course,
I talked
very
about
much as well. But
sunchokes, prunes.
we're entering spring
things like that,
now,
yeah.
and we're entering spring, and I think a lot of berries are coming out, but especially dark berries, wild dark berries. And so I hope I'll come to Clos de Tart and roast a duck for you.
You're welcome, chef. But let us finish the renovation, please, because for the moment it's not going very fast.
It will.
But congratulations.
Anyway, it's an interesting
Thank you.
vintage that Alessandro picked, because we probably have in mind 16 and then 18, 19 coming, and the 17 might seem a little lower in quality in Burgundy, but that's not the case actually. And then you will see. And Raj, I'm sure you're starting to get some
17 is an exceptional vintage. I don't think anyone can. Yeah.
Approachable and yet very balanced, great elegance. The length also in that 17, and we taste it very often with Alessandro, and it's getting better and better actually. So,
And tremendous charm. It's just very drinkable, which is lovely.
Good job. Thank you, Alessandro.
Thank you.
Sandro,
Welcome.
Thank you.
Merci,
Welcome.
Alessandro.
Merci à
All
vous.
right. Okay. I guess now we're gonna stay with you now, Frédéric.
Go back at Latour. So Latour was acquired by the Pinot family in '93, and it probably looks like Artémis Domaines is, the big brother Latour and the rest, but it's not the case. There's a lot of exchange. There's a lot of ideas circulating in this in all our estates, and for example, all the organic farming or the experience that we now have implemented at Latour. We benefited a lot from the experience of Eugenie that started these practices before us, and also when we acquired Eisele Vineyard, Hélène will talk about it. They were ahead of everyone in terms of biodynamic. We are right in front of that tower built in 1632. And of course, this is one of the oldest estates in Bordeaux. We can tell you a lot of the history. I don't think we have a time. Starting in 1331, we have an incredible team here, led by we couldn't be all of us. Jean-Marc Pistre is somewhere in behind inside the building. Jean Garando is also somewhere behind the screen, and I'm just sitting here with Hélène Génin. Hélène is now with us since 2002, and she's been responsible for all our vintages since 2007. And she's the one who made this incredible 09, 10, 16, etc., not to mention all the list, and including some amazing wines also in much more difficult times, like 12, 13, and then we will talk about it. She would like to go through a bit of the 19 description. So please, Hélène, it's all yours.
Hello to all of you. I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to be with Mr. Engerer and to be with you and to be able to see all my colleagues of the other properties. Is I'm very happy. It's very difficult to speak in few words of what is new in the property, because we do a lot of things. It's a lot of many details each day, each year. So it's very difficult, and we have few time. What I would like to say is that all our vineyard workers are busy at this moment with a very early 2020 season, like Michel said before. We have started the desuckering with a seasonal team, and we had a bit of stress at the end of the month of March because of very cold early mornings and a big rainfall with a little bit of hail on the last Saturday. But luckily with a lot of damage. So it's a quite hard beginning of season. But what it's important to say that everything we do in the vineyard has a common targets. The common targets are sustainability in a context of global climate change, precision and better expression of our terroirs, and the respect of our natural and human environment you can see around us. For example, we are keen to preserve the life in our soils by feeding it and protecting it against climate excess. Trying different plants for winter soil cover and questioning the historical methods of plowing during the growth cycle. We are determined to explore and take advantage of the whole natural space we have around us, and you can see in the video, by planting trees and shrubs into around the plots at the beginning, and today into the plots. The aim is the same, it's to preserve the biodiversity on both large and small scale by feeding the soil, by feeding the vine to help us to help it to defend itself. In the cellar, our targets is to decrease the sulfates whilst maintaining and respecting stability and quality of the wines. We have a lot of other subjects currently, but we have not a lot of time. So concerning 2019, which is our second vintage certified organic, it's a quite early vintage, very contrasted weather-wise, with a wet and cool beginning, and then a hot and dry period from fruit set to harvest. The wines are very complex, rich, and very well balanced. For me, it's a classical vintage, a classical balance, but plumper and more structured than 2017, for example, to compare. Today, wines are blended and will be aging in barrels for at least a year. We are also slowly getting ready for the bottling of 2018 vintage. The wines have been fined with white eggs and will soon be assembled in vats. We still have internal debates about how long we want to keep the Grand Vin in barrel, with Mr. Engerer particularly. It's such a concentrated and incredible vintage that we tend to think another 6 months barrel aging could be a good idea, like our predecessor did on the 1961 vintage. But we will see, we have to taste to see. So we have picked the Grand Vin 2012. And the bottle is here. So 2012 is a late vintage marked by, as a 2019, a wet and cool spring and a very dry summer with a long and slow color change. Some of the oldest plots of the enclos, and particularly Pièce de Latour, we are just behind us. Voilà, you can see Pièce de Latour. Suffered from a lack of water during the ripening process. On this vintage, we made the choice to extract very, very gently to keep the softness in the tannins and to preserve the elegance. And we can test to see if it's the case. So for me, it's I don't know how to say in English, but the term aérien, aériol. Right. It's not aerial. Light, but it's aerial. Because compared to more extractive vintages, it may have appeared as less concentrated, but barrel aging help a lot to gain in density, in power. So we can feel a lot of floral, very delicate floral and spices aromas.
Adam, you were asking what is the common thing about all the Artémis Domaines estate. You can see we have no spittoons.
You can't afford to spit it. It's too good.
I've been lucky enough to taste there, and yes, I didn't see any. I know there was one on the side maybe, but I think it might have been covered when we were there.
In mouth, it's a very surprising of sucrosity and plumpness. It's I'm always surprised.
A mix of black fruit and red fruits. And it's a very balanced wine. So as
very pleasant.
So I'm throwing just a quick remark on the fact that this is also the wine that we should be releasing in the weeks of the month to come. It was due to be released last March, but for obvious reason we postponed it. and so it's the first year that we are going to release after the first virgin vintage we will release after we pull out of the en primeur campaigns.
Awesome. And Raj and Danielle, what are we going to be pairing with this today?
You know, we're in Bordeaux, and lamb, of course, is sometimes, I mean, very often the favorite pairing with that, and of course, Chateau Latour. I'm thinking always of, you know, if you're gonna have Chateau Latour in spring, there's the beginning of the zucchini flowers coming in, and people like to do some grilling. So of course, I like to have the lamb delicately grilled, but seasoned with herbs, and herbs such as maybe mint and sage and thyme. But it's important to dry the herb first and then grind them and blend them delicately. So you have, instead of herbe de Provence, you have herbe de Latour, and you can sprinkle those herbs on the lamb delicately, and you can mix it with the salt and season your lamb with it. And I think that will be wonderful. And the dish here represent the zucchini flowers, which is quite delicate, floral in a way, and also the earthiness come from the dry black olive. I make a musto, and the black olive is basically a cured olive, not a pickled or brine olive, but cured and dry. And I soak them in water to take the salt away, but not the funk away a bit. And then after, I mix that with olive oil and create a musto. So this and the olives get soaked and then get dry completely into powder, and this powder is mixed with olive oil. And I think that give a wonderful sort of a pinch of funkiness. Who maybe
it's like a pungency.
The wine, yes, pungency, and the wine sustained that. And so this delicate balance of the grilled flavor, of course the juiciness and flavor of the lamb, and the fat, grilled fat, is fantastic as well. So I hope it could have been a good match, because I can taste the lamb, but I cannot taste the wine right now. I can just taste the lamb by talking about it. And I hope you can do too, because we are trying to taste the wine in our minds, but
we're waiting for a FedEx delivery.
Yes.
I think, Daniel, I think you were, you know, when you started your original restaurant, you had one of the most incredible Latour vertical in the world.
I know.
In the
world.
Thank
you, Mr. Pino. Absolutely.
From vintage 1945 up to
vintage 1921
or even 21.
We went back.
Don't say that to everyone, because we're going to get calls.
It was the 90s. It was easier back then.
That's Mr. Pino came for lunch 26 years ago, and after the lunch, it was my first restaurant. My wine list was very poor, not poor, but it was modest. And Mr. Pino say, you know, I really love your restaurant. I really love you, and I would like to help you. And at the time, there was no computer, so he sent me a fax, and I received the fax, and there's this vertical of Latour and vertical of Fort de Latour direct from the chateau to be just at Daniel in America. And I've been thankful forever. And I've been thankful for the support he gave me from the start, and the trust he gave me from my little modest restaurant who started, you know, in 1993. So thank you, Mr. Pino. If you're looking at us, I mean, if you're listening to us right now, I just want to say,
we're very proud to have all these wines on your list, Daniel. It's the other way around.
I'm lucky, absolutely. And our relationship has been for so long now. So Chateau Latour, of course, I will drink that anytime I can, especially when I have a lot of good friends who have good cellars. I dive into the Chateau Latour, but I also love Fort de Latour. And thank you, Frédéric, for having contributed to City Mill on Wheel gala we do every year. And 1 year you contributed with double magnum of for the Latour. I don't remember the vintage. That was maybe maybe 10 years ago at the time, but it was memorable, this experience and your generosity. Thank you.
Of course, anytime. Thank you, Daniel.
Raj, anything to say about the food and the wine?
Just that such a young vintage of Latour has so much potential, but at the same time so much silkiness, and sometimes spring lamb it's appropriate for the season, but it's maybe too light in some ways. I think that the herbs that you put on the outside, as we discussed yesterday when we were talking, and that intenseness and pungency of the olive is great, and it brings more of a fruitiness than a brininess. It's not. But
I wouldn't even go for spring lamb. I would go for lamb. Not the baby lamb or the real spring lamb. I mean, I think so that more into the summer kind of things as well.
Exactly.
It's good to drink Latour in the summer as well.
It's good to be you, chef.
All right. Well, thank you, Helene. Thank you, Frederic. I think shall we head to our last property? We're gonna move continents now. I actually have a very good relationship with this property in particular.
Special relation, yeah.
Frederic and Antoine and Helene, they helped me. I actually proposed on property about 2 years ago, so we're grateful for that, my wife and I, and it was quite an experience. So let me pull on Helene here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Helene.
Hello, everyone.
So we're traveling to Calistoga now, and to the southeast of Calistoga in the landmark estate in Napa called the Eisele Vineyard that Artémis Domaines acquired in early 2013.
Mm-hmm.
The estate is run by Antoine Donadieu, and Hélène has been our technical director, head winemaker since the very beginning. So she has started with a 13 vintage, and it's been an incredible story. I mean, this estate had produced amazing vintages at the time when it was bottled by Joseph Phelps, and so there's a history on that land of vintages. Some of you might have had like 75, 77, 78 was really the origin of our interest for that land, and it's the if we need to define terroir, it's exactly what it is. It's a piece of land that has been able to constantly produce top quality wines with different owners, with different winemakers at different times, year in, year out. And now it's Antoine and Hélène who have a responsibility to make the best of it. So Hélène, so all yours.
Yeah, so I'd like to start to say that I'm very happy to be here with everyone today, and I'm really enjoying Chef Daniel Boulud's words, his description of the dishes and the cooking, even the raw material that he uses makes me salivate, and I just I'm having a very good time. So here it's 9:40 in the morning. The sun is rising in the sky. It's starting to warm up. You can probably hear the birds behind me and see the blue sky. There is no rain on the horizon, contrary to Burgundy. Our dry season has started, and it's been a fairly dry winter, actually, similar to 2013. So we're a little bit nervous because we don't have a lot of water in the reservoir, and we're very cautious in our viticultural practices. We're trying to implement all the practices that are going to help us maintain the humidity in the soil and the freshness. We don't want the vegetation to grow too crazy either. So right now what we are doing in the vineyard is suckering. We're eliminating all the suckers, those little shoots that are not going to produce any fruit and are just sucking the energy out of the plant. We've also mowed and tilled the soil to avoid competition for water from the cover crops. And because we're in the COVID-19 era and we are limiting the interaction of outside crew, we decided not to use any outside crews this year. All the vineyard winery team and the packaging team are helping in the vineyard. So it's very particular because everybody's in the vineyard helping, doing that suckering in a timely manner. So we can get all the advantages of it, all the benefits. And so it requires also a little bit more management to drive and to teach to people who haven't done that on a regular basis. But they're doing a terrific job. We have an amazing crew, and some people who have never done it before are just performing splendidly. So we're excited. It looks like a good year for now. It's very on par with the average, so it's not early, not late. And the forecast is beautiful for the next 2 weeks.
Perfect.
I am going to talk about the 2016 wine, which is the wine that we have decided to present today. So I'm going to put it here. To 2016 Cabernet Sauvignon. I was told that this vintage is going to land.
Hélène, can you tell us just quickly about the other wines that we're making at the estate, maybe just quickly?
Oh, sure. We are making a Sauvignon Blanc, of course. The Sauvignon Blanc at Eisele Vineyard is a little particular because there is a fair amount of specific clone that we call the Musqué clone. That is a Sauvignon Blanc that is not only on the thiol aromas, but also on the terpenes. So it's a different category of aroma. So it's not as strong on the herbaceous and boxwood aromas and tropical fruit, but it's also a very citrusy and flowery notes on the nose, and also on the palate. It's a wine that's very crisp and exploding with aromas, with a bright palette of different fruits and flowers. Our Sauvignon Blanc is grown in the back of the property, in the back of the canyon, on the heavier soil, the clay soil, and with the northern exposure protecting them from the hot weather. We also we have two red wines, the Cabernet Sauvignon Eisele, which is our flagship red wine, made of 100% Cabernet Sauvignon and produced from the grapes that are exclusively grown on the alluvial fan. I don't know if everyone can see the map behind.
We do.
Yeah, all right. So you see the creek, the blue line, it's Siemens Creek. So the blocks that are on each side of that line are part of the alluvial fan. And it's all Cabernet Sauvignon, and that's what makes Eisele Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon. The other blocks that are in the back make Altagracia simply because they are from different soil. The alluvial fan soils are a lot different from the soils on the hillsides. Soils on the hillsides are shallower, they are volcanic, they are very shallow in some areas, and can be loamy in some parts, and very diverse. While Eisele Vineyard is that iconic part of the Napa Valley, I would say it's very unique. It's the formation of that soil that is very deep, made of boulders and cobbles and pebbles that have been adding year after year. They are the results of the erosion of the Palisade Mountains, and it provides the vines simply to root very deeply and have a very intimate relationship with the soil, and that's this the belly of the earth that is nurturing the vines, and that gives such a special special touch of the tannins of the Eisele Vineyard Cabernet.
Back to the 16 now, maybe.
To the 16. All right. Feel free to ask any question. If you do have questions, I can also see them on the screen. So 2016, landing in Canada, Toronto in June, I was told.
Uh-huh.
It's one of it's an important year for us because it's the year we started to collect the fruit of our work, of the new viticultural practices that we've implemented in 2014 and 2015. 2016 came after 3 years of drought, 13, 14, and 15, where the winemakers or the growers didn't really have a hand on what was happening. Nature was very strong, had a very strong impact, and we were just trying to follow nature and catching up with it. In 2016, we felt like we also got a break. The winter was more rainy. We had at least full reservoir when we started the year. And, we had a mild season, a mild summer. And that allowed a nice ripening season and a lot of freshness, a lot of fruit, and a lot of depth in the fruit that we harvested. The skins were beautiful. It was perfectly ripe. No damage, no heat wave, no excessive heat waves, and very fresh nights also. All the perfect ingredients were there in 2016. We started harvesting in September 16, and we finished in October 5th, I think. So it was a nice long range of harvesting. We could pick each block at its perfect ripeness. The wine has fermented for about 3 weeks and a little bit of an extended maceration. It's been drained directly into French oak barrels, and we've aged it for almost 2 years, close to 20 months. In our cellars that are in our cellars or cave that are drilled inside the volcanic rock that makes the environment here. That you can see some of it behind me. Always very impressive when you come to the estate to see the apparent state of the volcanic rock inside with all the different iron and magnesium, the vein that will nurture the vines as they grow. So we.
Hélène, I think that the chef is fermenting something also. So
well,
sorry, I hate to cut you.
No, please, Hélène.
I suspect that Chef Daniel is boiling something or cooking something.
It was wonderful to listen to you, Hélène, and I had the privilege to cook at the property
in 2014.
Frédéric. 14, and I think it was 15. Was it
14?
14. And thank you, Frédéric, for inviting me. And I was honored because I think I was one of the first chefs cooking there.
You were.
And I remember it was just a wonderful experience. And what year did you purchase the property?
We took over in June 13.
That's it. So it was really the first year after.
I wonder if it was not 13. Hélène,
no, it was 14. I just looked at a picture of that actually earlier.
Yeah. It was 2014.
Spring in 14.
Yes.
I don't remember what I cooked at the time. I have to go back to my notes.
You were with Michael Tusk, I think. You were with Michael Tusk.
Right.
Yes. But here, like Frédéric, I have young children. And thanks God they're not here because you would have not been able to follow anything around. I am by myself. I'm by myself at home here. I think I'm gonna open a bottle of wine after this session because I really need a glass of wine. But I am making, actually, let me drive you a little bit in my kitchen. So voila. So I'll be making a burger, a Wagyu burger. I'm grilling avocado. I had spinach. I have no tomato. Oh, pardon, you see, yeah. I have spinach. I have no tomato, but I have Rao's homemade tomato sauce. So that I think that will do for me. to have a little bit of Rao's tomato sauce in my burger because, so of course, am I trying to do, hold on one second because I'm trying to get my iPad to be in a proper set. Voila. Am I trying to do the perfect match with Eisele? Maybe not, but I am using a lightly smoked Hawaiian, how do you call it?
Salt.
The black lava salt. Black lava salt, which I've lightly smoked, and I'm using also porcini powder. Porcini powder, which was given to me by my friend Régis Marcon in the. Actually, when you pass Chateau Grillet and you drive up toward west of France, you go to Régis Marcon, and so the porcini powder goes, of course, into the burger a little bit at the beginning, at the end, and then I don't know if you see much, but I'm gonna try to do my best. Voila, like this, and I grill my bread.
I challenge Chef Daniel to come up with something to quintessentially American to go along with this. Thinking he was in Westchester at his home, at his country house, grilling outside, but instead he's
alone. Daniel, usually you have an army of
I know exactly.
People around
I'm
you
home
helping.
alone, and I am.
Well, if he was upstate, he'd have a camera person. His wife could hold the iPad.
So I'm gonna put a little bit of my tomato sauce inside the spinach, and I'll finish the tomato sauce tonight with some spaghetti, because you know, as a fancy chef, I love spaghetti tomato, and I'm putting a little bit of nice mix of spinach and avocado. I grilled the avocado. I grilled the bread. I put a little pinch of garlic to the bread as well. I put my burger in the middle here, cover up, voila, press, and
I said to Danielle, you know, grilled meat
voila.
with some vegetable element would be great.
My little Wagyu burger.
So a little bit of vegetable note from the spinach, the avocado, could bring some fat, a little bit of a greenness too, sweetness from the tomato. I had.
Hélène,
for the technology.
Hélène, would you say 16 is your preferred vintage so far of all you've made, all the ones you've made?
It's tough. It's tough because I really like 19.
Okay.
Well, but yeah, I would say as a bottled vintage, yes.
Great.
I would say then my burger with a glass of 19 will be really amazing. Can't wait to taste it.
Danielle, do you deliver to Toronto?
A second dinner, Danielle.
He needs somebody to deliver a bottle of Chateau Latour from downstairs in the cellar to him. Unfortunately, I'm in Connecticut, so I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, you know, we really thank everyone for joining us today. A few things I obviously want to mention. Number one is the raffle for Hand in Hand for Danielle Boulud's charity. We're going to be posting that right now in the thread here. So if you're here watching now, you can see in the chat, on YouTube, on Twitter, along with in our Instagram bio, you're able to find that. If you don't see any of the above, feel free to email info@halpernwine.com. The raffle is a Jeroboam of Chateau Latour 2005, a Jeroboam of 1996 Clos de Tart, a Jeroboam of Domaine D'Eugenie 2012 Clos Vougeot, and dinner in 2021 at the Skybox at Restaurant Danielle with wines presented by us. So we really hope we can raise a lot of money for Danielle and his cause. We understand, you know, how grateful it is for you guys, for you to be on here and everyone to be joining us today. So really, thank you guys so much for all your time.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you for your work. Thank you for putting that together. It was a big first for us. It worked very well. I want to thank also Cyril, who's just sitting behind, who is our IT specialist, who's been very helpful and instrumental to put together all the Wi-Fi connections in every estate, because we've never done that, and that was a great occasion.
Well, we're greatly appreciative
Great to
of
see you, Daniel. Thanks a lot for joining us. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Thanks to Adam and Todd for organizing this, and for you, Frédéric, and this wonderful family
Merci.
of not only the chief of every domain, but the incredible family who work for you in the entire portfolio of Artémis selection. They are really, really wonderful people.
Merci, c'est très sympa.
A lot of passion there, a lot of passion, a lot of care.
I'd be remiss not to mention that if you visit helpernwine.com, you're able to leave reservations or purchase wines from Eisele Vineyard here in Ontario. So please do go check out our website if you are interested. Of course, these wines are available around the world. So whomever your distributor, importer, retail store, I strongly suggest you go and acquire a bottle of two or a case because you will not be disappointed. So once again, to all of our viewers, to all of our panelists, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today. Please stay safe, please stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing every one of you hopefully soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon too.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.